What's going on, guys? Welcome to a different but still very important and special episode of Rico's Rants. I'm your host, Rico DiGiorgio. I'm sorry if I'm a little uh, looking kind of dour. I'm not feeling well. I'm still not 100%. I've been sick for the past 3 or 4 days, and I'm stressing out because I don't want to be sick for Star Wars: Last Jedi, which is coming out in a couple days. But there's a strong possibility that I may have to have a great experience feeling shitty. Apart from that, I want to talk about today. Now, bear in mind, I'm not sad, I'm not depressed, I just feel sick. But I want to talk about something that has been close to my heart since I was 8 years old. Now, you may laugh, you may not give a shit, but that's okay. Most of these videos are mostly for me, not for you. Today is December 12th, 2017. This is actually the birthday of my hero. One of my main inspirations, one of my main idols, the one and only Frank Sinatra. Come back. Don't leave. Come back to me. The reason why I want to talk about it, because anyone who's ever met me knows that Sinatra has been a big influence on my life. Um, Not so much in appearance or style. I mean, if I had it, I would be wearing a suit and fedora. But I have fedoras. But then I don't know. I stopped wearing them, or I don't wear them as often. I only wear them for special occasions. But I was known as the guy for every birthday, every Christmas, anything Sinatra. I have a wide collection of books, movies, um, records, music, obviously, posters. I am a big, massive Frank Sinatra fan, and the reason why, I'll explain all this, and I will do a quick review because this all kind of comes full circle to the rants. When I was 8 years old, so 1999, I know, um, I didn't really have any musical taste. The music that was popular at the time was a lot of Britney Spears, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys kind of shit. I wasn't really into rap, and I really didn't know anything about rock and roll. I was not a heavy metal kid. I knew of certain songs, but I didn't I didn't have any preferences. Like there were some soundtracks that I like. I was more of a soundtrack kid. Like I really loved listening to the Danny Elfman soundtracks and John Williams. Um, Prominently, the majority of the music that I grew up listening to when I was very young was a lot of classical and a lot of Italian love songs, like a lot of Pavarotti, a lot of opera kind of stuff. Pavarotti, Beethoven, Mozart. I listened to. I mean, I think one of my favorite movies when I was like 7 or 8 years old was Amadeus. Um, I was just and the main reason is because of my father. My father and I we have a farm about 100 miles away from my house. So it's a 2 hour drive, 2 to 3 hours, depending if you stop on the way to go grocery shopping. So on the way there and on the way back, I would listen to what my dad would listen to. You know, he put in cassettes in the car that we still basically have. Um, so a lot of Beethoven, a lot of Mozart, a lot of Pavarotti, a lot of Bocelli, a lot of old school Italian tenors like Carlo Butti and um, Placido Domingo, who's Spanish, but still, there was a lot of classical shit in the car, and it sort of fueled who I was when I was a kid because I wasn't popular and I was teased a lot. So it just was one more thing that I had no musical taste whatsoever. And I remember this very clearly. My dad, on the way back from we call it the land, on the way back from the land, um, my dad starts talking about. He's like, Rico, I want you to listen to someone. He he's a very important singer, and he's Italian. What he meant to say was he was an Italian American. And I immediately piped up and I said, "You mean like Pavarotti?" I was excited, because growing up an Italian, you gravitate towards other Italians. So I was excited immediately. My dad said, "No, he's not like that. He sings a different type of style of music, sort of like jazz." And I had no understanding of jazz. I had no understanding of basic music. I just knew what I didn't like, which was everything. So he pulls out a cassette called Frank Sinatra's Gold. I had no clue who it was. I didn't recognize him. And he popped in the cassette, and the very first song that I was aware that I was listening to of Frank Sinatra was Young at Heart. And just from the opening, just from like 5 seconds in, I was hooked. It was that missing link in my life that I didn't know I needed. And so that song was soft and cute and romantic, and even at a young age, I was always pining. I was very lonely. I was always pining. I wanted a girlfriend very badly, and I was 8 years old. I wasn't like, ew, cuties. I was like, I want cuties. If it comes with girls, I'll take it. So this signified all that for me. And the second song was Luck Be a Lady, and I was like, whoa, this gets loud and trumpets, and he belts out songs, and I was hooked like you couldn't believe. So 2 hours later, my dad's dropping me off at my mother's house in Berkeley. She has long time ago. It was a apartment. She and I occasionally lived there with her. And I remember I had more or less remembered the lyrics of Young at Heart by rote. I was off a couple times, and I was also known as the kid who was like singing Italian love songs at a young age. My dad was like teaching me Italian love songs, and I was sort of the, "Hey Rico, go get up on the chair and sing a song." Like that was that kid. I didn't get along with kids my own age, but I got along great with a lot of older people. My dad's older, so I got along with a lot of his friends. His friends were essentially my friends in a weird, fucked up way. So I'm singing to my mother Sinatra songs, and I remember my mother looking at my father, and she gave a look which was like, "What the fuck did you just do to our son?" And years later, my dad more or less would kind of say the same thing, like, "What the fuck did I do?" Because it became an obsession. Not to the point where I was like obsessed, like serial killer obsessed, but I finally found something that I could gravitate towards, something I was really interested in. I had no interest in most of anything my age. I was very much a quiet, kind of keep to himself kid. I was theatrical and I loved performing, but I was very lonely. And I didn't know really what to talk about to other people except movies. Movies was the only thing I was really interested in. But I was kind of my older brothers are 10 years older than me. I got a sister who's older as well, so I didn't really have any siblings to kind of hang around with. My closest friend I met when I was 11. So I was a long period where I was just by myself in my room reading. More or less the same room I'm actually in right now. This is the house I grew up in. The camera's going to lag a little bit, but you know what? I don't care. So, that became me interested in him singing. And I played that goddamn cassette like 30 times over the weekend. And I wore it down. Like it was done. Like the fucking tape flilled out and I couldn't put it back in. It was just gone. It was a done tape. I listened to that motherfucker so many goddamn times. I remember my dad saying, "What happened to the cassette?" I'm like, "It's broken." He's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, I listen to it all the time." So then I came back from camp, from summer camp one time. This has got to be a couple months later. My dad, rare for him, gave me a gift. My dad was raised Jehovah's Witness. He's no longer a Jehovah's Witness. He didn't raise me Jehovah's Witness. He raised me more or less an atheist because he was a Jehovah's Witness and he turned atheist when he was about 20. But the whole no gift giving really stuck with him. Like, even in my teens or even now, like, I have to haggle with him over my birthday. Be like, hey, Dad, can I get this for my birthday? He's like, why do you deserve anything for your birthday? You're alive, aren't you? What do you mean you know? I mean, this is the same guy, like, when I asked my dad for an allowance, he says, I allow you to live. So, go figure. So, a lot of the Christmases, birthday stuff I got was from my mother and family friends, but really rarely from him. Not to say I was unhappy, it's just that's just the way he was. But he gave me a gift when he picked me up, and it was so random, and I was so shocked. It was a big, big, glossy picture, photo book of Sinatra and his life. And I remember it was like a close-up of him kind of doing that and kind of smiling, and I was enamored, so I was reading all about it in big pictures. I was a big reader when I was a kid, but like this was something that I was like I was hungry for some reason. And so as I'm reading, I'm learning about his life. I'm learning that he was an actor, which made me be like, okay, I want to see a movie of his. And I'd gone through his filmography in the book, and I was like, okay, Ocean's 11, that sounds kind of interesting. And there was another one, A Hole in the Head. I'm like, all right, that sounds interesting too. This is when it gets kind of weird and full circle. I was being babysat by my mother's friend who lives around the corner from where I work currently, the video room. And he said, let's go get some movies. So I said, okay. So we went to the video room where I currently work. So weird, full circle, how this happens. And I went up to the clerk, and I'm 90% positive it's my current manager who's been there for 20 fucking years, and he's now sort of retired and volunteers, and that's why I'm working there. He hired me because he was getting, he had knee surgery, and he's just getting old, and he just needs someone. And I remember going up to him, and I asked him, I said, do you have a Frank Sinatra section? And he looked at me like, what? And he was like, is this for a school project? And I was like, no, I just want to, do you have any movies on Sinatra? And he said, yeah. And he still was like, yeah, this doesn't happen that often. Took me to a section, which is basically still there at work, but modified. Now it's DVDs. Back then, these are VHSs. And he showed me, and I picked out Ocean's 11, and I picked out A Hole in the Head. And I didn't watch them at that guy's house that I was being babysat with. I watched them at my house later. He told me, he said, give these to your mother when they're done, then I'll return them, or have her return them, because I didn't know where the fuck I was. I was like 8 or 9 years old. So I watched Ocean's 11 first, and I immediately was bored. I don't say this that often, but Ocean's 11 is a fine movie, but in terms of remakes, it's the rare one where the remake is better than the original. I'm a Sinatra fan, die-hard fan through and through. But it was just over my head. I didn't really care, and I didn't know who Dean Martin was, and I didn't know who Sammy Davis Jr. was. Not really. I'd read them in the book, but I was more interested in Sinatra, and I was really disappointed because he didn't sing in the movie. He doesn't sing in Ocean's 11, so I was kind of bored. And then I watched A Hole in the Head. This is one I related to because it's a father-son chemistry. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, in part, apart from it's his birthday, apart from because I work in the video room, apart from everything, is because when I first did a practice run on Rico'S Rants over a year ago, I did A Hole in the Head. But I did it so sloppily and so shitty that I didn't air it. I mean, I put it on my Facebook, and it was in 2 parts because it was like an hour long. I just kept talking about the whole movie. I just went through it, like, scene by scene. I just oversold it, and I didn't know what I was doing. And I remember my mother, I told her what I was doing, and she said, an hour is way too fucking long, Rico. No one wants to hear you talk about Sinatra for an hour. We'll see. So, it turns out she was right. In that instance. So the first episode, at least the first attempt, was about A Hole in the Head. Now, just quickly, A Hole in the Head is about a widowed father who runs a hotel in Florida, Miami, I believe, and he's got a young kid who worships him, and he's broke, but he's very much like, if I dress like I'm successful, then people will think I'm successful. But he's really just a bum in nice clothing. But his kid worships him and idolizes him, and in an attempt to try and get some money, he gets his brother, his older brother, played by Edward G. Robinson, to come out with his wife. And sorry, my mother was calling me. I'll have to call her back. And to basically maybe take the kid back to New York because he just can't afford the two of them. The brother, or his sister-in-law, comes up with a plan. Like, what if he got married? Would you like give him a loan? Would you set him up to work at his own jewelry store that he runs and owns? And so it's sort of a weird ploy where there's another widowed woman in Florida, and they set them up with the intent that maybe they'll get married. It's sort of a weird, forced romantic movie, but it's cute in its own way. Edward G. Robinson is a highlight. He's really fucking funny. And the movie won an Oscar for Best Original Song. It was the song High Hopes. There's a part where it's a sort of in its own way, its own nursery, where Sinatra and the kid are kind of like upset, and in order to pick themselves up, they sing the song High Hopes. And the kid sucks at singing, but it's cute. And I remember watching this being like 8 years old, looking at it in like a very in an interesting way, because this is this new man that I was kind of idolizing in its own way, and I related to the kid. I was looking at my father, my very Italian American identity, and Sinatra perfectly captured that. I always say that most Italians worship the Pope, but if you're an Italian atheist, Sinatra's the next best thing. So I'm fine with that. So after movies, and then I saw like Man with the Golden Arm, and at one point I'm going to have to talk about Man with the Golden Arm. It is one of my all-time favorite films. It is a fantastic fucking noirish drama. It's ahead of its time. It was very ballsy, but I'll talk about that at some point. Another reason why I'm talking about this is because my current girlfriend, Stephanie, and you've seen her. She's done 2 videos with me. She did the Halloween and Goodfellas ones with me. Really funny. I'm happy I'm with her. She fucking hates Sinatra. And I've talked about that in 2 videos with her where I'm like, God, my love for Sinatra is rivaled by her hate of Sinatra. The fucking irony is that she loves all that music. She loves all the songs. She just fucking doesn't appreciate his phrasing or his style of singing, because she was trained classically. So when she sings a song, she sings it note for note the way it's supposed to be. Whereas Sinatra became popular at the time because he had a new way of phrasing it, and he did it, in pun intended, his way. So Stephanie doesn't appreciate that, and I told her, I was like, she kind of annoyed me earlier, and I said, okay, well, it's all funny. It was funny that she did a prank on me. I said, okay, you're going to have to fucking watch tonight's rant, because this is some bullshit. And she's like, what is it? I'm like, do you know what today is? And she's like, no. I'm like, it's a certain someone's birthday today. And she's like, and I just hear her sigh and go, fine. So Steph, enjoy. But overall, that's basically it. Over the years, I became more into other music, and I broadened my horizon and genres. But Sinatra's always going to be the top for me. I sort of adapted a lot of things his way, not verbatim, not perfectly. When I became a smoker, unfortunately, I did become a smoker. I sort of, when I was figuring out if I was going to be a smoker or not, I tried his brands, and that unfortunately kind of sold it. And that's one of the biggest regrets, is that I became a smoker. I was that 12-year-old. I mean, my first day of high school, I walked into high school with a suit and a tie and a fedora. And a girl, I remember, she said, "I like your hat," And I was kind of ballsy. I said, I like your face. And she was like, okay. I was not very good at flirting back then. I don't know if I am even good at flirting now, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, my room became covered in Sinatra posters and a library of books and movies. I just he is the epitome of cool. I mean, some people prefer Elvis, some people prefer Ozzy, some people prefer Eminem or whoever. Sinatra is my guy, and it made growing up very interesting and very unique. I'm grateful for what my dad did that day. He, on the other hand, is not exactly too proud because, especially at that age when I didn't have any friends, all I wanted to do was talk about Sinatra. So the most frequent thing I heard was, "I don't want to talk about Sinatra." Growing up, um, one thing that I did manage to do because I did mention I was a singer and I was toying with the idea of whether I'm going to do this or not. And I know the camera's laggy, and I have no audio to go with this. But I do actually sing, and I mean I call myself a crooner. So I'm gonna end this video, if you'll excuse the poor quality, with me crooning my favorite song. And again, I don't care if you like it or not. This is fun for me. I'm gonna get a little in style. I don't have a great one, but here's a nearby fedora where I can. Oh god, I look like a total fucking. I look like a blues brother, also hipster, but whatever. Again, this is just for. So remember, there's not going to be any music. It's just me doing an acapella. The song is "One for My Baby" and "One More for the Road," and it's a perfect saloon song. That was the Sinatra I always kind of gravitate towards. Especially if I was going through a breakup, I could just like feel that loner, and that's why I love Sinatra, Stephanie. That's why, because he gave off the impression that he knew what he was singing about. He knew about heartache. He knew about love and romance, and that God, she's poison to me, but I can't live without her. Here we go. It's 3:15. There's no one in the place except you and me. So set 'em up, Joe. I got a little story you ought to know. We're drinking, my friend, to the end of a brief episode. So make it one for my baby and one more for the road. I've got the routine. Put another nickel in the machine. I'm feeling so bad. Can you make the music easy and sad? I could tell you a lot, but you've gotta be true to your code. So make it one for my baby and one more for the road. You never know it, but buddy, I'm a kind of poet, and I got a lot of things to say. And when I'm gloomy, won't you listen to me till it's talked away? Well, that's how it goes. Joe, I know you're getting anxious to close. And thanks for the cheer. I hope you didn't mind my bend in your ear. But this torch that I found must be drowned, or it soon might explode. So make it one for my baby, and one more for the road. The long, it's so long, the long, very long road. And that's it. Thank you guys for indulging me with that. Happy birthday, Frank. I wish I could have met you. I wish I could have told you what you did for me. You will always be my hero.